I said in part 1 that when it comes to the villains of Star Wars Battlefront, it's quickly apparent that they aren't as varied as their hero counterparts, but that doesn't mean they aren't different. While the heroes tend to be a bit faster and cover a little more ground, the villains tend to be a little slower and their attacks don't have the same range. Now this isn't all bad. Slow attacks are easy to aim and their force powers, some of which are unique only to the dark side, compensate for some villains' lack in agility. So as we'll see going through the villains, Pandemic really did give them their own playstyle. A playstyle that's no more apparent than in our first study, Emperor Palpatine.
I am not amused.
The differences between light and dark heroes are really put on display with Emperor Palpatine, which is why we're beginning with him. Palpatine is extremely slow, virtually in the same vein as Yoda, and his attacks have almost no range. This is okay with Yoda because his size and attacks make him a difficult target, but Palpatine is just a normal-sized dude. His basic attack, comprised of 2 frontal swings followed by an overhead swing, leaves him vulnerable. Thus, similar to Yoda, Palpatine's other abilities help players who may have trouble getting in lightsaber range. Force Choke can quickly end a one-on-one confrontation with Palpatine, and sometimes just getting near him is a dangerous proposition alone. This is especially dangerous when playing as an opposing hero, though it can be blocked just like any laser blast. It's important to remember a few things about Force Choke. First, it's fueled by stamina, meaning using it after sprinting or attacking really diminishes its effectiveness. Second, while using Force Choke, players can't do anything else, so players will be vulnerable, though they can stop and divert their attention at any time. Force Lightning acts as an AoE attack and can help dispatch a group of enemies, something Palpatine just isn't fast enough to do. And although range is limited, its radius is rather wide. It's also particularly useful against Bothan spies, the Rebellion's special unit, as Force Lightning will still deal damage even when they're invisible. Palpatine is rounded out by his surprisingly useful sprint and drop attack. Once sprinting, Palpatine attacks with 2 frontal swings, downing anything in front of him. It's an attack that's easy to time and has decent range and can be easily repeated, as Palpatine is quickly able to start sprinting again soon after the attack. However, it is hard to control. His drop attack is a variation of Mace Windu's Force Smash, but it is noticeably different. When it comes to jumping, Palpatine isn't like a normal hero. While most heroes can jump multiple times, Palpatine's jump leaves him levitating in the air all Super Saiyan-like. This makes timing and aiming his drop attack far more easy than it is with Windu. It also deals way more damage and, on landing, literally sends enemies flying, making the attack way more dangerous than Windu's as well.
Feel the power of the dark side.
Vader is similar to Palpatine in both speed and attacks, though he does have a few distinguishing features. His basic attack is as simple as it gets, consisting of 3 slow frontal swings, not to say that it's a bad attack. In fact, Vader swings at such a wide radius that it's kinda hard to miss with him. And while he walks slowly and doesn't gain a lot of ground, it's his force powers that distinguish him the most from Palpatine. Like Palpatine, Vader has Force Choke, but unlike Palpatine, Vader has Saber Throw, so not only is he dangerous close up, but he can reach enemies from afar as well. His sprint attack is straightforward, one powerful swing that knocks down anything in his path. It's not as continuous as Palpatine's attack, but it is easier to control and covers more ground. For these reasons, Vader is one of my favorite villains. His mechanics, while they may insinuate he's tough to play as, aren't that tough to learn. And the way Pandemic weaved together his rigid mobility and versatile powers make him both fun and easy to play as.
Tell the generals that Count Dooku is here.
Dooku represents a combination of both light side and dark side styles. Unlike Anakin, who is the middle ground between the light and dark, Dooku is uniquely built from styles we've seen on both sides. His basic attack, while one of a kind, is like a mix of Vader and Ki-Adi-Mundi. It begins with 2 frontal swings and ends with a spin that is easy to control and covers some ground. His force powers, Choke and Lightning, coupled with this attack, make for an exceptional blend of danger at close and long range. Dooku shares his sprint attack with Palpatine. This is interesting because with Palpatine, his downfall is his range, but Dooku doesn't have that problem. With this sprint attack, it means Dooku is dangerous at long, medium, and short range. It's an amount of versatility not a lot of heroes possess.
This is Jericho. What do you want? When do I get paid?
Jango and Boba Fett are my favorite non-lightsaber wielding villains and possibly the most dangerous of all heroes with a blaster at their side. Jango and Boba's jetpack provides the obvious advantage of easily scaling terrain and finding hidden targets. Because the jetpack runs on fuel, essentially its own stamina meter, Jango and Boba have an increased amount of mobility. They can sprint, jump, and roll like every other hero, but they can also fly and attack at high speed. Boba's EE-3 carbine fires a 3-shot burst that, at least in the game, feels a lot like Han's DL-44. He carries 4 jetpacks and his wrist rockets act as his own form of grenade. Jango, while he's famous for his dual Westar 34 blasters, uses the Westar 33 blaster in Battlefront 2. With its scope and 16-shot reload, the weapon feels somewhat similar to Leia's sporting blaster. Of course, with 16 shots, Jango is better equipped for sustained firefights. Instead of jetpacks, Jango carries time bombs and comes with the same wrist rockets. Both bounty hunters carry a flamethrower as their secondary weapon, though it should be reserved for last-ditch efforts. It doesn't have much range, doesn't carry much ammo, doesn't do a lot of damage, and enemies really aren't impaired in any way. It can be useful for groups, but the explosives they carry will always be the first choice in those situations.
General Grievous is here!
Grievous is the oddest and really most awkward of all the heroes in the game. His attacks are simultaneously far-reaching and yet also difficult to judge. And despite all their differences, the one thing all lightsaber-wielding heroes have in common is that you want the bad guy to be in front of you. But that's not the case with Grievous. His attacks are sporadic and tend to focus on his flanks. Though his basic attack includes a few frontal swings, they happen really fast and don't extend very far. Because of this, there are times enemies can be face-to-face with him and remain untouched. And even if it's only for a few seconds, it's a weakness no other hero really has. Players will find themselves positioning enemies to the side of Grievous instead of in front of him, which is a departure from the precedent set by previous heroes in the game. Grievous' sprint attack is made of 2 parts. In the first, he swings 2 of his 4 lightsabers in a circular motion that covers a wide area and will hit anything in his way. Take note, it only lasts about a second, so it has to be activated once you're close to an enemy. In the second half, he swings downward, and the attack lasts just about as long. It doesn't hit enemies as well as the first attack, and, if not timed right, Grievous will cancel out of the sprint. But even with all these quirks, his sprint attack is still extremely useful and can be turned nearly as wide as any other sprint attack. I've always found it a little disappointing that Pandemic didn't give Grievous any secondary abilities outside of Rage. I mean, I understand you don't want him throwing thermal detonators or having both a blaster and lightsaber, but I'd be interested in seeing what other things they could have come up with.
Darth Maul, awaiting orders.
Darth Maul is by far my favorite villain and possibly the most dangerous hero in the entire game. His attacks are chaotic and often see him spinning, jumping, or flipping. In Maul's case, saber throw becomes even more dangerous, as the 2 blades cover double the ground of a normal lightsaber. His basic attack consists of 2 frontal swings followed by a spin kick that's followed by yet another swing with his lightsaber. It does damage in virtually every direction and covers as much area as any of the best heroes. His sprint attack pretty much turns Maul into a ball of lightsaber and can be turned to a large degree. It's one of the most dangerous sprint attacks of all heroes and is really indicative of just how devastating Darth Maul is. Looking back on this game, it still amazes me just how much Pandemic was able to achieve so long ago. The scope of the game across massive playgrounds, juxtaposed with how fine-tuned and specialized all the heroes were, it really does speak to the passion laid into the game. I don't know if we'll ever see anything like Pandemic's Battlefront again, but maybe the more important fact is that we, at least at one time, got a Star Wars game that a lot of us only ever dreamt of.